Hello everyone. So I'm going to do this rant on the 80-20 principle and how that applies to a whole bunch of different things. I just think the 80-20 principle is just about one of the coolest things out there. So with Jiu Jitsu, let's say that's something I love to do. I'm going to compete in Jiu Jitsu tournament March 30th. Nervous to do that, definitely a little nervous. For my opponent, you're watching this, I'm still gonna kick your ass. I want to make sure I do it with the utmost style, and that gives me some nerves, whatever. Anyway, on with the thing. But basically though, I'm like, okay, I gotta do a tournament. So last year I did a tournament around the same time, like in April, and I did the gi and the no gi, and it was just like too much. I wasn't in shape enough for it. Hadn't been as disciplined with the training as it needed to be, hadn't been sleeping enough. That was really just the big thing. Just two new kids and I haven't been sleeping enough. But whatever, I survived. I had some great wins. Despite that, got some submissions. And I learned. And I'm going to come back. But basically, though, with Jiu Jitsu, you want to focus on just 80-20. What is the 20% that gives 80% of the results? So for me, that's the back. That's attacking the back, attacking the crucifix, attacking the neck and chokes, those sorts of things, and having a top pressure dominant game. That's my 20% that yields 80%. In business, I identify my unfair strengths and advantages. So I read this book called Managing Oneself, and it's a Harvard business classic. You have to read it if you go to Harvard Business School, and I read it. It's called Managing Oneself, great book. The summary of the book is identify what you're good at and do that, and then identify what you're bad at and then minimize any need to do that. And the guy basically said that if you're really good at something, if you have a natural talent towards something and you maximize it, you could become world class. But if you're bad at something naturally, or just even mediocre at something naturally, and you try your hardest to maximize it, you're probably not going to you're not going to become world class. Maybe you'll become above average or proficient, but it's simply not worth pursuing, because you could just become world class at something and then get a proper fee for that skill and then hire people to do everything else that you don't really have any natural talent at anyway. So that's a great way to identify 80-20. Another thing is this book Beyond Training that I've been reading recently by Ben Greenfield, where he talks about, again, the 80-20 of training. And he talks about how it turns out that most people overtrain dramatically, and this ends up hurting their bodies, hurting their performance, draining their body of resources. They end up having depleted hormones, all these problems, because they're pushing themselves too hard in training, when most of the benefits our body needs from training come with just walking, basically. That's the 80-20. Basically, Ben Greenfield arrives at the same conclusion I did, that if you just walk for an hour every day, that's going to help you be more athletic than working out hard every day. You just want to walk, hike, and then do sporadic, super high intensity movements with perfect form, which is apex predator training. And he's come to that conclusion that that's the best way to train. I've already known that's the best way to train. If you really want to get diverse in your application of this, then walk up and down hills in the woods. That's going to really okay, I'm actually gonna go find a hill in the woods and go walking. I'll have my brother, we'll drive that together. But basically though, go walking in the woods. That's really going to do more for you than almost anything else. Just go for a walk in the woods and do that regularly, up and down hills. Your body will just adapt to that, and then your energy systems will get healthier without getting stressed. Because stress ages you, it taxes your body, it represents actual stress you have to recover from. So here's some water. I'm drinking spring water out of glass. Been up in my game, thanks to my brother going and filling these up. Up in my game since yesterday and a few days ago with the plastic gallons. I just don't want to be consuming as much plastic, because there's no way that stuff's good for me, and I don't have issues from it yet, but better stop before I develop issues. But basically, like 80-20, you know, like water, that's another big 80-20. It's like if you just drink really high quality water, like a gallon of it a day, it's gonna take care of most of your health problems. Take deep breaths, practice breathing with meditations, the way I talk about in videos. I pull videos on bioenergetic breathing. But like if you sleep, you drink water, you eat real food, then, and it's really like if you look to those things for your health, then you'll be better off. Like I find that the problem, like I remember when I was smoking cigarettes and nicotine, the problem was, it wasn't even so much the cigarettes and nicotine, though it was that was still very bad. The problem was that when I felt crappy, I would go smoke a cigarette instead of drinking water, meditating, like, you know what I mean? Like doing something that's actually gonna fix the problem. So it was a twofold issue of the fact that not only was I doing something harmful, but I was actually not doing something beneficial. I was not recognizing the cue in my body to drink water, to take a deep breath, to go for a walk, to whatever. And that disconnect, like that made me like the unhealthiest I've ever been. Like, not the unhealthiest actually, but close to the unhealthiest. Like some of the unhealthiest. The unhealthiest I had no excuse to be, because I knew everything at the time. I knew what I should be doing at the time, and I wasn't doing it. And the reason I wasn't doing it is because I was smoking cigarettes. It's like, why would I take vitamins and drink water when I just smoke the cigarette to feel good? And that's kind of the problem, is that we can turn to these substances when in fact we should be, I mean, the caffeine, whatever, like Adderall, nicotine, weed, these things, like they can have a place. Like they can have a place. But I think that the unawareness is really an issue. Not that I use nicotine right now. I think nicotine now. Use weed sometimes, but nicotine now. Because nicotine now. Just not. No benefit from regular nicotine consumption. Caffeine, yes. No benefit from nicotine, though. And I can tell that by listening to my body. But with the 80-20 principle, it really has such broad applications to so much. Like, that's just what you have to do if you want results. Like lifting, for instance, hip hinge, explosive movement, that's going to give you crazy results. This is actually kind of funny. So, I thought that I was developing like groin issues. I was like, did I develop a hernia? Because my groin kept on like being sore. And then I realized I've just been like, I don't know, I've improved a lot of variables. So I've been spending a lot more time in the hip hinge position late at night, let's say. Just not that I wasn't earlier, but like now a lot more. Like hours sometimes. And I'm like, oh, that's like last night I was like, oh, this is probably why my groin feels a little strained in the morning. All for the best though. Definitely all for the best. So 80-20 though, yeah, like that's a great 80-20. Like just have lots and lots of sex if you want good cardio, because like it's at that perfect intensity level and it like reduces stress, it feels good. Like sex and walking can be your cardio. Like you don't really need more cardio than that. Maybe you do a little bit of it. Hey, well, yes you do, you need some intensity, but that just throw that in there a few times a month, you know? Just get your sex, get your walking in, lift hard twice a week, 3 times a week. Like people are out there like murdering themselves. Like with Jiu Jitsu, like the 80-20, like, okay, we're sufficiently into the video that you're not going to be watching if you don't like me. So if my competitors won't be seeing how to beat me or seeing my strategies. I got some amazing stuff for Jiu Jitsu, for like how you train. But basically, I don't know, actually. I'm just going to keep that a secret. I'll keep my training, certain aspects of my training methodology a secret, just because I'm just going to, like, I want to dominate everyone, you know? Like, here's a secret. So this is, oh my God, I tell you guys all my secrets. So it's because you're all, by watching my videos, especially my early videos where I'm really popular, you're all part of my conspiracy to change the world. So I guess I can just afford to tell you all my secrets. F it, I'll just drop everything. Okay, so here's all my jiu-jitsu training stuff that I've developed as of yet. So basically all you do is you just systematically work your takedowns by taking the back, working the head, and then attacking the legs in that order and alternating left, right, up, down. And by doing that, you just make people out of position themselves constantly, because of the way human anatomy works on everyone. You have to use energy to do this. You just do these movements and they out of position themselves. You take them down, you use pressure and whatever, you get their back, and then once you're on their back, so the whole game is just energy conservation to get to their back. And you use little explosive movements to get to the back, and once you're on their back, because you've conserved all your energy, now you just submit them. And the way you submit them is by having spent hundreds of hours repping out submissions playfully from the back, which is what my brother and I are doing. And the reason we can do that is because all fighting is based on reaction, but in order to make fighting based on reaction, you have to control the context of the movement. Otherwise, people will just not give you the reactions necessary. The way I showed my brother this a few days ago was takedowns, basically. Like, he likes his low singles, and I was showing him, I was saying, hey Jason, if you try to low single me, it's not gonna work in a fight. And he's like, why not? And I'm like, I start doing a weird leprechaun dance, and I'm like, just low single me, I'm not even gonna stop you, just do it. And he's like, I can't. And I'm like, you see, this is why you can't low single someone in a street fighter. People who aren't trained wrestlers, because you expect people to step. They're not going to do anything predictable, so you have to have a blast double. You have to have a technique that you can apply in every situation that does not depend on a reaction. So this is the takedown, top pressure, pin heavy game that depends not on reactions. They then give up the back from whence you take the back. Now you play the reaction game, because once you have their back, they can no longer do unpredictable movements, nor can they use explosivity meaningfully. Therefore, you have rendered them predictable in every way, and now you can use no energy to make them off position themselves through your thousands of hours of reps in this one position to then secure the submission and win. And you just ignore everything else because it doesn't help you, unless it helps you take the back, because that allows you to get the most reps in of the most dominant strategy. 80-20. Come on, people, like, think about these things. And yeah, I mean, and then you just go live like twice a week, 5 hard rounds, what GSP did. And George St. Pierre is how he trained. You don't tax yourself that much. You just get your body really used to walking, really used to all this stuff. And then you go in the tournament, your energy systems are all top notch. You're explosive as fuck from all the kettlebells and the hip hinging. Your hormones are in top notch shape because you're eating properly and doing all the proper 80-20 for your hormones, and you're not overtaxing yourself because you're engaging in efficient training. So now you're a non-overtaxed, hyper-explosive, hyper-technical person who has multiple rounds in every single week using absolute violence, brute force, perfect technique and timing with total command of the resources, their physical resources, and they just plow through people. They just plow through people like they're not even there. That's what I'm going to do in the tournament. And it's just 80-20. Just 80-20. Just drilling those things. As most people spend all their time working all these new techniques from guard and new techniques from here and new techniques. And it's like, yeah, work them. I mean, I like to be aware of everything. I love the gym I go to because the guy I train under, Dave Spiro, teaches so many techniques. My guard game has blown up. Like, just blown up since I started going there. Like, that guy, like, he has taught me like over half my guard game, I would say. Like, he's taught me like a lot of my guard game, and I've developed a lot of my guard game in just the year and a half I've been there. But what I can say though is that the majority of the moves he showed me don't become a part of my repertoire because there's just too many moves. Like, how can I add all these moves to my repertoire? I can add some of them, and I add a lot of them from guard because that's the position that he shows me that like I need the most work on. That he's just got like a similar like anatomy to me, like short like limbs, so his techniques work really, really well from guard because I got like shorter limbs, and like a lot of people are showing me all this stuff and it just doesn't work. So his stuff works really well from guard, but like a lot of the other stuff from like side control stuff, like I add this stuff to my game and I use it, like I throw it out there while I'm doing my stuff, but my whole game, like I'm not trying to submit people there. Like, it's just another thing I can threaten while I'm trying to take your back and rear naked choke, because that's when I have all the practice and I have the whole systems around that. And I just keep developing that because at the end of the day, you can escape any position by giving your back, and then also the back is the bane of all other grappling arts because they'll all give their back. And it is also the one position that eliminates your opponent's ability to frame You have most access to the neck and submissions. What Marcelo Garcia used to plow through ADCC and murder giants. It's clearly the best position. So for submissions, I mean, mount has its benefits. You have to use back and mount interchangeably, obviously. But the back, though, like, you could use the mount to make them give up the back, but you can't really use the back to make them give up mount. You know what I mean? Like, they always end up with the back. You always end up in turtle, the back somehow, so you're just really good at finishing from there. It's terrifying. So, like NESF, the first gym I ever trained at, really. Well, first gym I trained at was Julio's. But the first gym I trained at, like, for longer than a month or two was NESF, and, like, they were all murderers from the back. Like, because they just did no time limit rounds, so the way they would go is they would just get your back, and then you would just not be able to escape. Like, because, like, they would just hold you for, like, minutes, and, like, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, until they eventually finished you. So everyone gets tons of practice in of having your back. And the thing is, you can't really escape. Like, that's the thing about having the back, is, like, you can't really, like, once they're on your back, like, that's just kind of it. Like, unless they're willing to, like, rush and make an error, like, you're really just kind of stuck there. It stinks. And you realize that with the no time limit rounds. I mean, with the time limit rounds, you realize that I actually finish people with a time limit, which is cool. But with the back, so it's interesting. No time limit rounds develop more principles, like more like fundamental principles of positioning, whereas time limit, you develop more setups, like more rapid setups for stuff, because you have to submit people quickly. But with like no time limit, I'm like, I don't need a fancy setup. What I need is the most efficient way of holding you for the longest time that leads to the submission, not the quickest way to submit you. Because once you remove the urgency, everyone's game changes. Like, now no one's trying to escape quickly because, like, that risks submission. No one's trying to submit quickly because that risks escape. So now it's this, like, gradual waiting game where you're, like, basically constantly moving millimeters. It's really cool, actually. Like, I miss it a lot. I really miss the type of jiu-jitsu that came out from that, because you just can't move quickly. Because if you move quickly, you're gonna get caught in something. Because the other person's just waiting for you to basically move. So they're trying to create pressure. It's basically like you learn, like, time pressure, like positional pressure, so much better in no time limit rounds. But with time limit rounds, you develop more submissions because you need to threaten more things to get the submission. Because like okay, so let's say there's a difference. If we're rolling and you're much better than me and you get in top side control or mount, let's say you get a mount, and I know that you can basically the highest percentage submissions from there, it's like arm triangle, arm bar, Ezekiel choke, like that. But it's like it might take a while to get there. So at the back, it's like rear naked choke. I just grab your arms, defending the rear naked choke. Like, if I'm just being super stubborn, I can deny you the rear naked choke, and I can like make in like you can know. Like, so in a no time limit round, the way it's going to go is I'm going to grab your arm and I'm going to know that you're just going for the rear naked choke, because that's the highest percentage, lowest risk submission. So I am going to just be denying you the rear naked choke. So you're just going to pressure me into the rear naked choke over time. That's what you're going to do, is you're going to develop a whole game that's based around pressuring me into the rear naked choke over time. And I'm gonna develop a game that's based on escaping over time. And if we're doing time rounds, that's not gonna work, because I'll just stall you out, and then we get to the end and you didn't submit me, so I kind of feel like we're like equal, even though it's not. And basically then what you're gonna do is you're gonna develop lots of different setups for the back. Like, you're going to develop, like, a whole bunch of different ways of setting up different submissions. Because now you're like, okay, well, I'm not just going to try to get the rear naked choke, because I'm going to run out of time. So I am going to have to like use a whole bunch of different strategies to create openings more rapidly. Whereas before, like, what you could just do is you can just start like inching your arm like across, for instance. Like, there's different strategies that come out. Like, you just start inching your arm across, inching your arm across, inching your arm across. Because again, like, the whole thing is there's no time limit. So if my ways of escaping are built around explosive movements, like, let's say I start exploding, you're cool with that. It's gonna prevent me from submitting in the time, but you're cool with that because I'm just gonna tire myself out. Even if I escape, you'll allow me to escape if I use enough energy, because now I'm more tired. So now you just start coming after me again. You just create this constant pressure on me that doesn't allow me to rest. Like, now that I started to lose my breath, now I can't catch my breath again. And now you're just on me. And it's like this like relentless pressure over time that like breeds no mistakes, basically. And like, I love that with the no time limit jiu-jitsu. You basically like learn way more about the fundamental psychology of how to apply the moves, but you don't get to apply as many moves because most of the time you're spending in the position, you're just holding the position because, and like moving little bits because you don't want to do anything risky and explode. Like, I think that is ultimately, I think that's the best way to train. That's like the 20 that yields the 80% results. And I think 20% of live training should be timed rounds, because the timed rounds don't create fundamental technical understanding in the same way of like millimeters. Like, if I'm trying to use a position to wear you down and create pressure that wears you down over time, details matter more. Whereas if I'm trying to submit you within a short period of time, my ability to chain attacks together matters more. My ability to like just be fast matters more. Make speed more of the game. But the thing is, like, I think that it's more realistic to have the no time limit, because a lot of the time with guard, for instance, guard becomes less useful. Like, there's just different, like, people don't move from position. Like, people use time. Like, when I'm like in a round, I'll look and be like, oh, like, I'm running low on time, I gotta submit him faster, I'll try to go. And like, they're like, oh, I only have 2 minutes left. But it's like, so I'm gonna try to survive side control. I'll survive side control. But if you know that you have till class ends in 2 hours to escape bottom side control, and I know that I have 2 hours to create evil hell for you with pressure and technique and placement, my placement is going to be so much better. But I'm also going to do less techniques. And I feel like also, like, I don't know. It's interesting. Like, in some ways I did better in tournaments. Like, certain things I did were better. Like, this is interesting. So, in tournaments, when I trained that style, my style was a lot more bulletproof. Like, I never got submitted. Like, I had, like, no fear of being submitted, because I'm like, I know how to, like, hold off submission indefinitely. Because also, though, like, you just have, like, more time to practice stuff. Like, I can know, like, if I get your back, like I know, like, if I lose your back in a round too, if I'm way better than you, I can try more stuff, because I'm gonna be able to get your back again. And like I know. So when I'm doing my time rounds, I'm going against some people who are worse than me, out like some white belts or whatever, new blue belts. They will use all their energy to keep me off them, so I get their back eventually. And now I'm like, okay, if I like lose your back, we've got like 2 minutes left. Like, you're gonna like use all your energy to prevent me, to stall, basically, to prevent me from getting back on your back. So you're like, I'm gonna survive, I'm not gonna let him. get a dominant position. But if we were in an infinite round, you wouldn't do that, because you would know, like okay, cool, yeah, you're gonna use a bunch of energy for 2 minutes, whatever. We're gonna keep rolling for 20, 30 minutes. It's 2 minutes to 30. Like, the energy, like, so that becomes part of the strategy, where I'm like, I'm gonna make you use your energy so I can submit you. So it creates this technical and psychological mastery that's just amazing. Like, I remember like blue belts and even purple belts from other gyms would come in, and I would get them. I would just be able to submit them because I did the no time limit rounds, and they all had the time limits, so they would hide in the time limit. Like, because I'd be like, okay, like at the beginning, I would just be getting dominated. In the beginning. But then they get tired, and then I would start dominating them. And then that would be, and then like now they don't have a break. They're used to the break. I'm used to not having a break, so my energy is way better at conserving. So I just wear them out, and then I just submit them again, and that's like, that's its own thing. That's really cool. I want to do that. Like, I just want to do that so bad. I wish my gym did that. I want to like do that. Like, maybe I'll just get a bunch of weirdos together and we'll just meet up once a week and do that, because it's just so cool. I just really, really like it. But the other thing though is you don't get as good at like submitting people. So like in tournaments, I remember I get positions, I get you the person's back, but then like they would be like, oh, I'm just gonna stall them out for the time. I'm like, oh, I'm not used to how to like chain the attacks together. And then I'd rush things, and then I'd lose the position, and they'd escape, and I wouldn't be able to secure the submission. So I had to develop both styles. Like, they're both very necessary, especially for competition, but I think that the overall tightness that's able to be gotten with no time limit is truly amazing, because like, you just wear people out. Like, it's just its own thing. Like, time is a weapon, and that's really like what fighting even teaches you. Like, fighting itself, sans time limit, it's just way better. It's way better with no time limit. It's way better for like as a martial artist, but as a sport you need the time limit. So I think both are necessary, but I think 80% of the time should be spent no time limit training. Done. Tune in tomorrow at 6 a.m. for another great video. Subscribe for more.